And you know that through regular meditation. Now a reference at this time which our Master has given us and which I hope you will enjoy. Master said to a group of his disciples, "The Lord has arranged for us this visit to this earth. But most of us become undesirable guests by considering certain things here as our very own. Forgetting the temporary nature of our stay, we form various attachments, my home, my money, my work, my family, and they're not yours at all, nor mine. It's all God's consciousness in each and every one of us. If we could but realize it, nobody would lose. You would never lose your relatives. How can the one consciousness lose itself? Except by attachment to something else and then losing its identity. That's all. Nothing is ever lost in God. But when our earth visa expires, all human ties vanish. We are forced to leave behind us all we had thought we possessed. The only one that accompanies us everywhere is our eternal relative, God. Why not know him now? Why be left holding the bag, as they say? Why not know God? Realize now that you are the soul and not the body. We say it every Sunday. I am not this body. I am not this body. It takes a long time to convince somebody or something what we truly are. Realize that you are not the soul, that you are the soul and not the body. Why wait for death rudely to instruct you just what you are? Why not know it now? We're God's children and we can know it. And so, if we act only for God, this is the key. It's so simple yet so difficult. If we act only to please God, it doesn't make any difference what it is, what you are doing. Making a bed, anything, sweeping the house, anything. If you do it to please God, you will never forget him in time, and it'll be a natural thing, and at will you will know he is the doer. Master has this to say, which is most wonderful. If you do this, if you recognize this truth, as I have just pointed out, that God is the sole doer, therefore you do things to please him, then there'll be no attachment, do you see? If you do it to please yourself, you get attached, or your family. But if you do it to please God, recognizing that he is in your family or in whatever you are doing, there's no attachment. And when you do not have that thing, you are not sorrowful. These are eternal truths which we must realize. Now our Master has said this. If you do this, you will see him everywhere. Instead of losing your family or those things you enjoy, those things which are near and dear to you, you will not lose them at all. As he says, you will see him everywhere. You will see that there is no separation between your life and omnipresence. You see the key? It's the fact that we separate this one life and feel we're separated from God, that we think of dual things. I'm here and you're there and God's somewhere else. No, but if you remember the Master's words, you will see him everywhere. You will see that there is no separation between the life which is flowing through you and God's omnipresence. How wonderful that is. That is the key to the whole, or the solution of life, is to realize there's no separation between this thing in me that's talking and this thing in you that's listening. It is all God's consciousness. Break that separation and there'll be no more sorrow. And you will live thankful that you know God is and that there's no separation between you. That's the greatest sin, is to feel apart from God. We have no right to do that because it is not true. God is, he is in us. Our consciousness is none other than his. Why make it separated? Why separate it? It is not necessary at all. And the man who feels himself sufficient to do all things, he's the egoist, or the egotist. Now when he feels that way, what power does he use? He uses nothing but his little limited power of ego. And that's very limited. If his heart suddenly stops, the ego is gone. Very limited power. His human will is limited. But on the other hand, when that man unites his will with God's will, or his consciousness with God's consciousness, then his will becomes God's will, not his little limited ego will. That's the key. That's the key. If we would but realize God is the doer, no matter what you are doing, much more power will come to you, much more keenness, much more stability, much more calmness, much more ability to do those things which otherwise would seem impossible. Why? Because you've hooked your will up, so to speak, if I can use that slang expression, with God's will, none other than his will. And in all things, in all feeling, yes,